I tried to do an Ironman 17.3 with no training, and in this video I'll break down the biggest lessons I got from doing it. This video will be divided into 3 parts: the mindset, the training, and the fueling part. And if you haven't watched the video where I attempt to do the Ironman 17.3, then I would advise you to do so, since this one is just a debrief of what happened. With that being said, going into this challenge I had one clear thing in my head: I was going to suffer. It wasn't a question of if, but more of how will I deal with it. No one signs up for an Ironman and expects it to be a walk in the park, not even trained athletes. And if I never really trained for it, it would be naive to think that I wouldn't suffer. So that became the first lesson. How would I deal with this pain and discomfort that was about to come? And yeah, I faced challenges before in life, of course, but this whole thing of the Ironman just made it more clear that pain is inevitable. The way you deal with it is what determines what happens. I don't know if that makes sense. Here's the interesting part though. Even if I did finish it, I don't think I would have been proud. And here's why. You see, I come from a lifting background. When I hit a PR, I feel proud because of the months of work that I put in to hit that PR. The PR is basically just the reward from the work that I've put in. And if I finished the Ironman without training, that would have just been luck, and not really thanks to my effort. And I don't want my goals to depend on luck. Another mindset lesson that I had was regarding my running. You see, my running is probably my weakest point. I suck at long distance. I've been running for about a year, and the improvements have been quite slow. I could easily blame my genetics and just give up. Or I could own it, put in the work, and make progress. Because here's the truth. Everyone has different resources to achieve their goals, but only a few are willing to use them. I actually can't believe I wrote this on the script. Pretty nice. Pretty nice phrase, huh? And during the race, I kept wishing for things. Cooler weather, a tailwind, but that is just waiting on luck again. So the biggest lesson here is we get what we work for, not what we wish for. Another nice phrase. Should be a philosopher. Okay, now I'll do the training breakdown. So the swim, I did it in 55 minutes. So I completed 1.9 kilometers in 55 minutes. And to be honest, I'm actually pleased with this result. And the reason being, I think the average time a person would finish is around 45 minutes. So considering I didn't train for it, I didn't swim in a straight line, I had to basically do loops for an hour, I had to avoid people because I swam in a place where people would just go on and take a bath, and sometimes I didn't even have enough arm room, could we say that, like leg room, arm room? I didn't have enough space to fully extend and use my arms properly. So sometimes I had to switch techniques, which also made me a bit slower. So with all this in mind, I could probably go for a 40-minute within a month, I'd say. So the swimming, I'm actually pretty happy with it, and there's not much I have to change. Technique, it's kind of decent, I just need to get used to swimming more. So the only thing here is to implement it on my training plan and just simply swim a bit more. And that's it. I'll be swimming between once or twice per week on my next training plan, which I'll break down in my next video. So hit that subscribe button if you're interested in seeing my next workout plan. Now moving on to the bike. I wasn't able to finish the whole portion. I finished at 65 kilometers at an average of 28 kilometers per hour. And again, for someone who never rides a bike, I'd say that's pretty respectable, especially considering that the reason why I stopped was just because my ass was hurting a bit. The bike portion, I don't really have much to improve. It's just training more. I'll implement biking during my weekly program, which will be around 2 or 3 times per week, with one bike ride of just zone 2 easy ride, which will be the longest ride of the week, and the second one where it will be either thresholds or tempo, and maybe a third one which will be mixed with running. One thing that the bike does need to improve though is the recovery between hard efforts, because I chose a path, or I chose a course that wasn't that demanding on the elevation side, so my legs were a bit fresh. If I had more hills and more climbs, my legs would probably be destroyed. So it makes sense to have some threshold or tempo, not runs, rides, to adapt to that stimulus. Moving on to the run. I only did 12 kilometers at an amazing pace of 8 minutes per kilometer. I know, part of it I was just walking. I couldn't deal with the oh my god, I was exhausted. Fuck it. Man, Portuguese, English speaker here. Sorry. That was rough. I was struggling for the most part of the run. My legs weren't even the biggest issue. I was just exhausted completely. What really annoys me is the fact that running was the only discipline that I've been training for the past year. And yet, it's probably the worst discipline out of the 3. And you could argue that it was the third one and therefore being the last discipline Obviously, my capabilities will be below optimal, let's say, but the fact of the matter is, I feel my baseline of fitness in a much better place when it comes to swimming and cycling rather than running. If you ask me, again, with no experience, I could swim 2 kilometers pretty easily. The bike I rode for 65 and I could ride way longer if, again, I could be sitting on the bike. So the running is just simply the worst discipline I have. And being the worst discipline, I'll have to put a bit more volume in training for it. Now, more doesn't always mean better, and since I'm also lifting weights, I cannot run 6 times per week. I could, but I would have to give up either swimming or cycling. So in this case, I'm still gonna run 3 times per week, with one long run in between 15 going up to 25 kilometers per run. I was gonna say per hour, but per run. 1 threshold or tempo, and 1 brick session mixed in with the bike itself. That's pretty much it with running. Again, if you guys would be interested in checking out my next workout plan, then I'll be doing a video in the next couple of days, where I'll break down everything in the plan when it comes to mixing lifting with running, cycling and swimming. All the sets, repetitions, RPE, and my idea with progression. But with that being said, let's move into fueling. Here's actually the shocking part. I nailed the fueling part without any experience. I just had some ideas. I had the idea that you have to have electrolytes and a bit of carbs. And I did some research before. And even if you do research, you need to practice it. Because some people absorb carbs in a better way than others, and some need more electrolytes and more water. Knowing myself, I kind of had the idea of how much I needed, but it was still an unknown. But I did nail it. And here's my strategy. I took electrolytes every single hour, which I'll leave the electrolytes that I took, which they aren't that strong, I don't think, and between 500 to 750 milliliters of water. I think the water could have been a bit too much, but not really. So I think it was the sweet spot, except for the running, but I'll get to that in a bit. And for sugar or carbs, I was consuming between 40 and 80 grams per hour. I know 80 grams might seem a bit, especially for someone untrained, but I actually was more on the upper end of this range that I gave you. I was consuming between 60 and 80 per hour, which was more than sufficient for the bike portion especially. I was feeling fresh the entire time. I didn't have any gels. I just had sugar, plain old sugar from Lidl, and some gummies. And it worked out perfectly. Again, the only issue with the fueling part I had was during the run, because I didn't take enough water, electrolytes, or carbs with me. Because first of all, I actually didn't expect to finish. And second, I didn't want to carry like 3 or 4 bottles with me. This is one thing that if I signed up for the proper event, might have changed, because they have those like small aid stations, which might have helped. And I definitely felt the difference between the fueling from the bike compared to the run. One interesting thing that I could have maybe added in, and I didn't really think, was caffeine. Maybe a little bit of caffeine during the transition between the bike and the run would have helped, because my legs were fine. I was just really exhausted. So maybe, again, the caffeine would have helped. But I was afraid of spiking my heart rate. I was afraid that I would just be put into a higher zone than what I had to and make it even worse, basically making my run at a higher effort than what it would have been. Overall, it went really nice, even though I didn't accomplish it. I learned a lot of things, and if I can give you any advice is to just simply sign up for things. If you're afraid of not being able to do something, just sign up, take that jump, because you'll be forced to train for it. And you never know what you're truly able to do. I thought I wasn't even able to do the swim, let alone almost finish the entire bike portion and failing just because my ass. And the run was okay, understandable. So these challenges are here for a reason, to challenge ourselves and to learn from them. And even if you do fail, you'll get lessons like how I did. And I might give it a go in a couple of months, or maybe in just a month. So if you want to follow the journey, don't forget to hit subscribe. In the meantime, check out one of the videos that are on the screen right now, because YouTube thinks that you'll enjoy them, and hey, maybe you actually do. All right.